I don't know. I probably just didn't hear you.
That's a pretty flower.
That's a pretty flower.
It's even prettier when the alpha interpretation is correct.
That's very romantic.
Oh, is this the answer to the alpha
Yeah.
question?
Hey everyone, I'm OZO, and I will be hosting the Final Cut Virtual User Group today. I'm joined by Noah Kadner, Steve Martin, Mike Matzdorf, and Mark Spencer. Hey guys.
Hey.
Hey,
Hey, Ozo.
virtual Alex.
If you want to see the show from my point of view, check out the link on OZO or go to our Pixel Core channel on YouTube. So, we'll go around the table for tips and tricks. In between, we'll answer your questions between tips, so ask questions and vote on your favorites. Our first tip comes from Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, taking commands from this little
Qbert guy.
Yeah, Qbert guy over here. So I have a pretty neat little tip. It's a short one, but I think you guys are going to like it. In fact, you and your audience, I think you'll find it very useful if you work with stock music. A lot of us, download music from different stock sites. And the last thing you want to have happen is your project to go out with, a watermark in it, or, you don't have the rights to it, that sort of thing. And this is where roles can be a really useful tool to kind of prevent that or guard against that. I'm going to show you how to use the merge role feature to kind of kill two birds with one stone. And I think you'll like it. So let's go through it. And then if you guys have any questions, and just go ahead and throw them out there. All right, so I'm going into my library here and my projects. Let's see here. I think I've got a history. There we go. All right, so a lot of you are probably familiar with this project, probably seen it enough already of this date night scene. We've got a lot of dialogue, music, and effects in here. And I want to focus on the music, which you can see down here. And I have two types of music. I have a waltz and a kind of a contemplative piano melody. If I spill open the roles here, the sub roles, you can see I got my piano and my waltz. And let's just say, for argument's sake, that this particular clip was a temporary clip that I downloaded, but I want to be able to visually flag it in the timeline so I know that it is in fact, a stock clip.
It's watermarked.
Watermark, so I know
the rights or something.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Edit Roles window. I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to add. I'm going to add a music role. I'm just going to click this plus, and I'm going to call this temp music. Oops, spell it here, temp music. And just so I'm really clear that I don't want to use this, I will typically give it a nice, in-your-face color like that, right?
Warning color.
Warning, yeah. So I'll click apply.
Like, what color would you call that?
Yeah, what color would that might be like?
I would probably call that fire engine red.
So what I'm going to do is command click on these two waltzes here and these clips, and then go over here and choose Sign Audio Roles. And I'm going to go down here and choose Temp Music. Okay. So there I have my temp music. So I just go about my busy editorial business, and I never have to be confused that clip needs to be replaced before this goes to air or broadcast to my client, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake, that I've already replaced it. I literally replaced the content in the timeline, and I'm now ready to return it back to its formal role status as music, not as this temp music.
Right.
Now, of course, I could right-click on the clip, and I could reassign it. Okay, I could reassign it the waltz, and it'd be fine. But there's one downside to doing it this way. I'll have that parent role that's just kind of orphaned. It's just sitting in there. And I don't know if you look at this list, if you start creating a bunch of parent roles, they start accruing in this list. Have you noticed that?
For the library, right? Once you create one for anything in the library.
Right,
there.
and like half of these I may not use. I mean, like I want to keep my parent role list and my sub role list clean. So I'm going to show you a way to keep. I'm going to show you a way to reassign the sub role while also keeping your role list, your parent role list clean. And that's where I talk about the merge feature. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back into the edit roles. And right here's my temp music. I want to show sub roles. And there's my temp music. Now, only when you reveal sub roles will you get this little drag handle right there. I know that this really should be this should be reassigned the wall. So I'm going to grab that little drag handle. I'm going to drag that on top of the waltz. Okay? Then I'm going to delete that temp music. So what I've essentially done is I've merged the audio content and deleted the unnecessary parent role all within the same window. Now, when I click apply, I'll get a dialog. It tells me what I'm about to do. I say I'm going to delete the temp music and all of its subroles, and I'm merging that particular subrole with this new parent role group. And I click continue. And just like that, look what happened in my timeline. My timeline is it defaults back to music. So what I get here is kind of what I call a twofer. I get to merge roles and then and get rid of an unnecessary parent role at the same time.
Very nice.
Right.
Automatically reassigns everything. You have to go through and select
That's
all
right.
or anything.
So that's
Nice.
that's my tip.
Yeah, I use that a lot for different kinds of music, like in the narrative thing, where
Right.
it's score, or it's source, or it's scourse, or it's meant to be on a radio, or something like that. And when you break out your AAF, then everything that comes out sort of channel appropriate. So everything that's meant to be on a radio is going to be on a set of channels that can be EQ'd or tweaked or futzed in whatever way it needs to be. It makes it a lot easier.
Like the FUTS filter. Would
Yes.
be good to have the FUTS filter built into Final
The
Cut.
futz, yeah, there is one. There's several good
Thanks,
radio
guys.
filters.
I'm definitely going to use that on my next edit. Back to our
have no hands.
questions on OZO.
You don't. That's right. You don't have any
We
hands.
have a question from John Hooper. What features does Mike think are needed to get FCPX more accepted in the animation industry?
Without like the question at the end, in the animation industry, it's really hard to know when you're
Should we
done.
repeat the question, please?
Oh, no, it's
So-
10, by the way. But anyway.
So I think the answer is none. I think that
What? No,
it-
seriously. Can you repeat the question? Because I barely heard it.
The question is, what features should be here in order for Final Cut to be more adopted in the animation industry?
Got it.
I think there's no features of the software itself that are lacking in that. In fact, it's more feature-filled than the Avid, which is the most common player there. I think it's just a matter of acceptance for editors, and the one sort of outstanding thing, which is media sharing amongst many people, is not as slick as on the Avid still, and I think that's really part of the problem. But I think it's becoming more accepted, and it's becoming more used here and there. People are getting tired of Premiere. People are already exhausted of the Avid. But I just think because it's integrated into the system, that's why it's like that. It's not because of the software. It's funny. I'm talking.
You're talking to a ball.
But it's not because of any sort of efficiency in the software at all. I think it's people are still like have anxiety about using it. I was talking to someone just the other day who has a very stodgy's not quite the right word, but we all know this person where they just know, well, that's not, I didn't drink the apple Kool-Aid. I don't do it that way. And so there's a lot of the attitude out there. People just don't get it, and so they don't use it. And I think that's the simple answer to that.
Yeah, I think we could almost agree that just about all major NLEs these days are pretty capable. There isn't one where I look at them, oh, that just can't do that. It's more just, can a person be trained to do what they want to do? Are they open to it, or do they have their preferred platform, and are they going to stick on that?
Yeah, and I think the integration. I think integration between systems is far less important in animation because you're not duplicating massive amounts of media. You're dealing with animatic storyboards, and at the very end you get an animation, rough animation stuff. So it would be very easy to have a share amongst an editor, an assistant, a visual effects guy, and have it not really be any kind of problem for anybody. So I think that's the answer to that question, Ozo.
For me, it's more voice commands, less keystrokes. Okay, our next tip comes from Mark. Lay it on us, Daddy-o.
Mark.
What, he said my
Yeah,
tip?
I think he said Mark's tip. Yeah.
Like for my tip?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, okay.
Kind of old-fashioned.
Thanks, Ozo.
High tech.
So my tip has to do with how to get your Molo mojo back. So you might ask, what's a Molo? Anybody know what a Molo is?
No.
All right, so is a Molo something in motion? So before 5.3 in motion, when you had a set of layers or a group or a layer, you could take that group of layers or layer and drag them to the Finder. They'd be saved as a .molo file, a MOLO file. You could give them to somebody else and they could drag and drop them into their own Motion project. As of the new version of Motion 5.3, there's no file browser, so there's no easy way to do that. Now, you can still import media, of course, even though there's no browser. There's an import button here, or you can also drag and drop. So if I go to the Finder and I take, for instance, this, I'll take this flower here, I can drag it in and I can import an object very easy. But I also have this existing folder here. This group, I'll option click to show everything in. So there's a bunch of stuff in here, some text and some different graphics. And if I play it, it's animated. This is a little part of a motionvfx.com template. And the cool thing about this is I could take this thing and give it to somebody and they could drag it into their own Motion project. Of course, I could save the whole Motion project, but I can take this out as a little piece. And the problem now is if I try to drag this to the Finder, you used to be able to drag it to the file browser, but I've dragged it to the Finder, it doesn't become a MOLO file, it becomes this weird XML thing that cannot be dragged back in. Nothing, it just doesn't work anymore. So, but you can get your MOLO back. You can get your MOLO Mojo back. And here's what you do. So first of all, to get it out, in the library, I'm gonna go to the Favorites folder, and I'm gonna take that group of all those items. Now this could be a single layer, it could be some animation that you made that you really like, some text animation or a bouncing ball or anything. Group of layers. I'm going to drag it in there, and there it is. Let's look at it as an icon so it's a little bigger. So there's my frame, and now I could take that and drag it into any Motion project. Now, but if I want to give it to somebody else, I could right-click on it and say Reveal in Finder. And we can see where it's placed is, I'll hold the Command key down, it's placed in the User, Library, Application Support, Motion, Library, Favorites, okay? So that's where it needs to go. So I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna put it on the desktop. And then if I go back to Motion, you'll see it disappeared. It's gone now. In fact, I'll take this one out here so it's completely gone. So now, if I go back here, and I'll even close this window, if I tried to take this .molo file and drag it into Motion, this used to work, but doesn't work anymore, so nothing happens. So in order to get it into Motion, you need to put it back in that folder, okay?
Okay.
Now, you guys might know that to get to the user library, what do?
Option.
Yeah, you go to the goal menu and you add the option menu, add the option key, and the library pops up. Notice there's no keyboard shortcut for it, okay? But check this out, just a little bit easier way to get to the library. I'm gonna bring up a new Finder window here, and this gear, if we click this gear icon, and go down to Show View Options, there are a bunch of different categories of columns that you can add, and as well as some other options down here. And the one we want is not here, but if I select the user folder itself over here, where is the, it's not there. The admin folder is not there. Let me just go up here and users, because it's not in the sidebar there. If I select that, let me drag that to the sidebar. This should be in the sidebar. So if I select it in the sidebar, we have an option, Show Library Folder. And let's look at this in list view so you can see what happens here. So if I click Show Library Folder, it now appears right there, okay? So you see it, no option key. Plus, it appears up in the Go menu without holding the option key, and there's a keyboard shortcut.
What
Shift
happens if
Command
you
out.
drag the library folder into the sidebar and then take it out of that thing? Will it stay there?
If you just drag it to the sidebar?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can drag it to the sidebar, but I'm
and
doing
then-
something different.
Okay, never mind.
That works too. That works too.
Come on.
Sorry. I was,
And that's very good. In fact, you can go a little deeper than that because you want to go to Library, and then you need to go to Application Support, and then you need to go down to Motion. So this isn't easy as it used to be, but you go into Motion, and then you can go into Library, and then you can go into Favorites.
yeah.
So you could take that library and put it in the sidebar as well. So if I go into Favorites, and now go back to the desktop and drag my MOLO file in here into Favorites, go back to Motion, there it shows up. And now I can add it to this project. and I've got it back. Okay. Yeah. So
Like the Molo is like Motion's version of XML.
You know what it reminds me of? Or are you? You're.
I'm done.
Can I barge in?
You took all the air out of my balloon.
No, but,
That's good because you showed me a faster, easier way to do it.
well, it reminds me of when Final Cut went from 10.0 whatever to 10.1, and you used to be able to like move cuts around, projects around, just by grabbing a file and giving it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And it would be fine. And then that was sort of locked down.
Right.
More. But that's what it reminds me of.
Well, we distribute in our tutorials certain content as Molo files, and it became an issue of like, well, wait a minute, I can't import them anymore, because if you try to import them through the import dialog, it won't work. So you need to place them in one of these folders. It doesn't have to be favorites, it could be one of the other folders here, but you have to place it in the library, basically, to get access to it.
Interesting.
Thanks, guys. We're going to answer a few questions.
Okay.
Our next question is from Ben Balser in Louisiana, USA. Does the panel think it is reasonable for LearnQuest, who now handled all Apple training, to charge $1,500 a seat for Apple authorized classroom training? Used to be upper end was $1,200. Many AATCs only charge $800 per seat. And do you think Apple authorized training for the Pro apps has a future, or will die out like a dinosaur?
Ow. That's a pretty deep question.
Harsh.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a shot at that, Noah?
You know, I think it's a really good question, and probably one that a lot of people. I'm going to talk to Ozo on this one. Ben Bozo.
Bozo. Nice.
Ben/Ozo.
Yes.
I think it
Apple
really.
won't let me even apply. Haven't they ever heard of machine learning?
There you go. Oh, I think it'd actually be pretty good because you're very intense. I think it really comes down to the individual
Never
trainer.
blinks.
I mean, it is that it continues to exist as a program is certainly valuable. And I guess it comes down to how well you're doing, whether you have that demand for classes with certification. I know a lot of people are more than happy to just jump in and take a class of Final Cut where they get trained and the certification isn't that important to them. So I guess it just comes down to the market. I don't know. I mean, you're in LA. What's that market like for certification?
Well, I don't know, but I kind of lately have thought maybe it'd be fun to get certified. I'd probably fail. But I think just to address the question, like, is it rude of them to charge that much? Is it out of line? Let them charge what they want to charge, and then don't buy it if it's too expensive.
Yeah.
If there's options that supply the same information and the same teaching for less expensive cost, go there. I mean, it will sort itself out. If someone's putting it out there as sort of a fishing expedition, they're going to find out if people are going to bite or not. So I say. I always try to get as much as I can on any job I'm doing. You know, people say, well, what's your rate? I said, well, what's your budget? So I think that if these people are trying to make a living, great. I know Apple's got a gazillion dollars, but I'm not sure how much it has to do with them. So I do think it's reasonable. And
I have not been involved with the Apple authorized training for, I don't know, since 2008. And Mark could speak to that. We haven't really, Mark hasn't even written a book in at least 6-7 years. It's got to be at least, right?
Well, we've moved all of our training and stuff online because you can change it. The software changes faster and faster. You know, Final Cut having these big updates, you know, sometimes a few months apart. It just doesn't. You have to move with the speed of the market.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem. And it's not that it's not valuable having the training. Like you said, whether it's worth 15 or 800, it's really a market decision. I question overall the value of, you know, certification itself. I can see why some educational institutions would want to be certified. They send their teachers or instructors there, and you want to come back. And I've got this certificate of completion. And in certain corporate settings, they want some sort of like, you know, in the IT industry, you have to have all these plaques. I've gone through this authorized training. I get that. I'm not sure how valuable it is in the creative industry. I mean, certainly if I'm hiring an editor, my first question is not going to be, can I see your Apple certification?
Mine is,
you know.
actually.
Really?
Well, I think like the idea is that if the certification is only going to be as good as you are.
Right.
You know, because if you're a good editor, people are going to want to hire you, just like you said. And the certification without like some style, it's like you go to college for 4 years and your first job is making coffee, or you can just start making coffee, and then you're going to learn what you really need to know along the way. And so the certification is nice. I would like to have a certification, but it's like you said, it's how you work with people, what your style is. I tell people, if I'm interviewing for a job, we're going to be married for the next 8 months if I'm working on a movie with you. We're going to hang out long hours. We're going to eat together. We're going to laugh together. We're going to fight. We might even take a nap together. And so you got to be able to get along with somebody and feel like you're a team of collaborators, and the certification has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question is from Steve Organ. Will we ever have image sequences supported?
So image sequences, that's where you, I guess, have a number of numbered picks or TIFFs or whatever, and then you will Final Cut, select the first image and it comes in as a compound clip or something. I think that would be a tremendously nice feature. Is it the top of the priority queue in terms of what needs to happen in terms of workflow? I don't think it's super high. A couple reasons is you can bring in sequential images right now.
There's a way to make it work.
You can make it work now. I mean, it doesn't have a menu item, but you can do it. We have a great tutorial on our YouTube channel that shows exactly how to do it. And then, it does support it. And then is compressor supports. And I did a whole Mac break not too long ago. Is it just open up compressor, and open up compressor, and I don't know, do we have compressor on here?
Well, I don't think, do we have an image? I don't know if we have an image.
Well, you don't need to. I was just going to show you that there's a command,
Okay.
import image sequence. And so that begs the question, do you really need it? I mean, yes, it'd be nice, but there's so many different ways to bring that stuff in, so.
Yeah, well,
There's compressor if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only area where I would like to see it is for cameras that shoot image sequences.
Okay,
like the Blackmagic cameras will shoot cinema DNGs, which would be awesome to bring in because that's essentially a raw format. But I mean, I could also see where the performance hit that you might take playing back a sequence of, 5 to 10 megabyte frames at 24 frames a second could get to be a bit of an issue.
That's a good point.
So
That's a really good point. There it is right there at the top of the compressor. Look, see, file, look at there. Add image sequence. So it is there.
So then from there you could just export out a movie.
You just export out a ProRes or whatever you need.
So the workflow, let's say for example, because image sequences come up a lot when you're doing VFX, so could the workflow be you get the temp sequence of frames, you wash it through compressor, you make a movie file, you bring that into Final Cut, and then, well, this is the trick. Then if you need to just replace one frame though, you still got to go back to that original group of frames, go through compressor, make a new movie file, replace it in Final Cut, and then you got what you needed. But instead of just swapping out one frame, you had to essentially do the whole thing.
Yeah, but you could leave them as single frames in a compound clip, or just in Final Cut.
yeah.
You can go
Well,
in
I
and get it.
just sent a note to Chris Hocking, who makes the lovely FCPX hacks. A lot of fun there, and to see. Okay, he says yes. My question was,
Yes to what? Yes.
buy me a beer.
Can
Yes.
it be done? Yeah.
The question was, can you have it adjust still image import to one frame? And so instead of having it be 10 seconds or whatever it is,
Yes.
just have it be one frame. And so
Yes.
then if you drag it, what I would do is I select all and I drag those images into a timeline. And if they're all one frame as a preset, it would come in, import as one frame, and then just compound clip it. And
You know what I use?
no,
QuickTime.
7.
QuickTime 7.
Yeah, it works.
Open image sequence.
Yeah.
Export a movie.
Will it work they won't work as a reference file though, will it? It's got to be a
No,
flat.
I don't do anything with
QuickTime.
reference files.
No, I don't even do those.
Friends, those are ugly. Those are ugly.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Some people miss them.
Right.
Okay, Ozo,
What's
next.
up, Ozo?
Yeah.
I still miss QuickTime 7. Okay, our
were
next
only
tip
like a
comes
year
from
ago.
Mike.
He's been
Go for it, Mike.
Well, thank you, Ozo. I've been fiddling with some software that some nice people have given me to fiddle with, and
This could be the world premiere. Give it a little more fanfare. I don't
well,
think I've seen this in
it's a
while.
couple of steps. It's a couple of
Okay.
all right. So one of the major, I think quandaries that people have that they miss from Final Cut 7 is the ability to trim their media. and do sort of consolidated projects. You're done with a giant project, you just want to keep the edit and some handles and move on. Well, sorry, it can't happen. Just kidding. There's a Marquee Broadcast who makes the Extra Pro, has made it a new tool, and I believe I've seen it for Premiere, and now it's coming for Final Cut X, and it looks a lot like a lot of the sort of XML tools. And what it does is, let me see if the preferences, this is a brand new beta for me that I just downloaded a moment ago. What it does is lets you export an XML from your Final Cut sequence, drop it into this program, and it churns out a bunch of clips. So you're just dealing with the media for your sequence and nothing extra. So you can adjust your handles, if you want 9-second handles. You can keep your audio files intact. You can trim your audio files.
0.9 second.
0.9 seconds, yeah, exactly.
So does it create a copy of your project, and that project's clips are all pointing to trimmed versions of the media?
Yes.
Well, let's go through it because
Okay.
it's pretty quick. I'm gonna go back to my little Feed the Fish movie here.
Feed the fish.
That's the film that I wrote and directed, and not bad, not great, but not bad. All right, so
Honest.
let's go to version 2 on this little sequence, and it's about 2.5 minutes. And
That's really photorealistic rendering of those people.
yeah, it's amazing. And all right, so you got a guy, and he's walking in snow, and the girl's skating on the thing, and they're chatting, and we'll see where that goes. So you can come up here and say, all right, I'm done, I'm locked. Just want to export my XML from this, and let's do it in here into the V2. Actually, I'm going to make a new folder for the media as well while I'm here. So we're going to take our XML and just save it right there. Goes pretty quick. Going to hide Final Cut and come back here. I'm going to browse for that XML file, number 2, the one we just made, and we'll put it into New Media 2. So I'd already tested this out once. And let's just go over here and check our preferences. Anybody hear my stomach just growl?
I heard it.
Way over here.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right, so we're going to do 1-second handles. And these are sort of similar to, there's nothing here yet for preferences. There's no preferences. And so you set your source, you set your destination, and you say start. And it's going through, and it's analyzing and clipping and making new bits.
Now, I guess the media is going through recompression. If it's taking those, there's a potential loss of a little bit of quality. If it's taking those longer clips and creating a shortened version, then it's recompressing that media.
Why would it need to do that?
Well,
if
it's actually trimming them. You're getting new pieces of media.
right,
Yeah.
but it begs
you're
the
losing
question:
it,
is
yeah.
it taking the original codec and taking the original wrapped whatever it is, MXF or ProRes, and putting it inside this,
It's got to recompress it, I think, to that same codec.
Well,
again.
I think I have some. Okay.
Because if you did the same time in QuickTime, if you opened it in
Yeah.
QuickTime 7 and trimmed the media and save, you're going through another compression.
I don't know what the answer to that question is, and again, this is beta, but these are good questions, and we should direct those to the Marquee
Okay.
folks and have them get into it. But the point is that this is making it's making a copy of everything, and what you end up with, it's going to finish any moment now.
It's actually pretty quick for the size of that that timeline.
All right, we're almost done.
What was the media in the timeline? Was it?
Media in the
ProRes
timeline
or
was
HTC?
ProRes, and it was but it was like I think a 1024 by something 560, whatever. It was an old
Yeah.
bunch of stuff. All right, so wrapped up there, and so what you end up with then is let's see here. I put that on my little drive. So inside this new media 2, version 2, well, that's nice. So we've got little bits and pieces of what was going on. And if I take this XML and I import it back into Final Cut. Let's just do a brand new library. And import XML.
You have to go in that new media folder,
Yes,
right? It says
exactly.
in there.
So it puts the XML inside this media folder.
Well, it's a totally self-contained package.
And that
Okay,
should
and
be-
so there it is. And that's just our cut.
All right, now can you do a bite size count difference between those two libraries, or just curious, like,
I can. This one is not hugely different because it's very small, but
Right, but-
and I think there are a few caveats with this, like retimed clips, bring in the whole clip, sync clips, bring in the whole clip. So it would be a little housekeeping to do before you did this to take full advantage of it, but it works.
Still, if
Yeah.
it's a
but
concern.
what should happen is if you parked a playhead over one of these clips and did Shift F, you should be able to see the in and out range with a second on either
Should
side of
actually
that.
match
With the
it.
handles that you make.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's a good
So Shift F. There
Oh
you
yeah,
go.
look at
There it
that.
is, yep.
That's all right.
Pretty
That's
sweet.
pretty darn cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah, this is something
that
that a
was
lot of
great.
people have been asking about
yeah.
for a long time because they missed that old media manager. Because if you've got a project that has 20 hours worth of raw footage and you cut it down to a 5-minute piece, if you want to archive that entire project, you got to do the full 20 hours. Now
Right.
you can get down to that 5 minutes.
Or I mean, really, even without this, your project, every clip in the project would have to take the whole clip with all the
Exactly.
extra media, but it may well not be anywhere near 20 hours. It's just the clips that you use.
Well, I
but if
think-
you used every clip of the 20 hours of the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think one place this comes in handy is with color. Like you want to send something off to Technicolor or wherever to get your color done, and they say, oh, just send us a consolidated bunch of media.
Yeah, that's great.
And so here's the answer to that. And so one cool thing, like let's say I'm working in LA and my colorist is in Melbourne. For example, Chris Hawking, who I've been talking to the FCP Hacks about, who has a copy of this project. And so he's gone through the good time and trouble to do a little grade for me here. And so just a little test clip. So this was done in Australia just a little while ago and was just pasted via the FCPX Hacks clipboard,
My God.
shared clipboard.
This is fantastic.
And if I wanted to send him, I could say, all right, well, I want to copy this bunch of business. Let's see if I have to go up here to copy it. I don't know. Let's see. No, I think I just copy it. Oopsie. So just, let's see, copy. And clipboard history. Okay, so that's what I just copied. And so Batman's Mac Pro, that's this one. So now Chris can get to that through our shared folder. And in Australia, he can then take that, it pastes right in his sequence. If I make a little change or something. And so, I mean, first of all, FCPX Hacks is coming up with some great stuff. And they're going to build it into a standalone app called Command Post.
Not FCPX Hacks commands or
No, well, I've heard Command Post. And
So right now, how's it actually sharing the media?
okay, well, he's got a copy of the library with the media.
Yeah.
And I could have sent him,
Okay.
like we could be talking about the consolidated.
Right.
bit.
So it was
very
a much
similar
smaller thing to send.
Very similar to the workflow you and I
yeah,
do.
right.
We have
But
each
because
person
you're
has.
sending them these with handles, it's much smaller, and you can just Dropbox or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I mean, if I'm working with
And
somebody,
then you're passing XML back and forth through his UI.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a clipboard copy. It's not not an XML.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
You're not exporting anything.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
pretty
this is
cool.
great. My editors, in Arizona right now are probably watching this and going, yes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
between
Travis
the two,
and Spencer,
between
this
the
is
two of
awesome.
these things, it's amazing.
Well, I think that the consolidation thing is got a lot of potential, and a lot of people have been looking for it. And if it's implemented well, I think it'll be a big hit. And I think that the whole sharing thing with Final Cut, we did this one thing with sharing, and it works pretty good. But there's some sort of ancillary effects that come out of it that haven't been solved yet. I haven't been working on it, but I know Felipe Baez has figured out some cool stuff. But I think the collaboration part of it
Yeah.
can always be improved on, and this is a really cool way to get into that.
Man, it's great. And just the robustness of the third-party community building tools to extend the capabilities of Final Cut
Yeah, and
is just outstanding.
it's fantastic, and it keeps, for me, it keeps the interface completely focused on what it's good at, which is editing.
Yeah.
You know, it's completely opposite than Adobe's model, which is like, oh, listen to these 10 people and just, you know, staple that on, staple it on, staple it on. That's, to me, that's how Photoshop got to be this big bloated mess. Where half of the stuff I could literally care less about.
We were trying to figure out the arrow today.
Yeah, today it's like I just want to make a simple arrow in Photoshop. It's like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna use Sketch. It's that deal. It's like I want simple tools, and if I want something more functional that adds stuff, I'll just I'll add it. I mean, to me, it's just that's what's brilliant about Final Cut.
Yeah, I agree. And just so people are clear on the name of the thing from Marquee Broadcast, it's Works for X, I guess, how that would be pronounced.
I'm telling you, this is going to be huge.
Yeah,
it's going to be huge.
It's great, and those guys, you know, they're good at doing. It already works really well with audio, and I think some stuff that might be cool in here would be to have some roles implementation in there, where if you have your visual effects tagged, for example, with roles, then just be able to like consolidate your visual effects stuff or export frames, you know,
Acts as a filter.
in that way. Yeah, I think that would be a really great addition to this. So there you go.
That's awesome, Mike. Thanks for sharing.
Once
That's
again,
fantastic.
Thanks,
again.
Mike. That was a great tip. While I missed QuickTime Pro 7, I definitely do not miss Final Cut 7. Going back to it, well, it hurts my eyes. All of them.
Guys are riots. Fuck you, OZO.
Yeah, it hurts all my
Got a
eyes.
sense of humor.
Our next question is from Jeff Pickett. Do the audio tools within Final Cut allow you to isolate the beats in a song to assist with editing to the beat, or is there a tool that automatically can isolate or mark the beats for you?
We've had this question before, and the only answer that I know is FCPX makes something to do that. I think it's called BPM, is the effect, beats per minute or whatever. And I don't know exactly how it works, but if you watch the demo on FCPX, I think that's the right tool for that.
Yeah, I haven't tried it.
Although it's not that hard to, I mean, I guess I have to hear more about it because you can play the music and tap the MP
Exactly.
to the beat, and then you might need to tweak it a little bit, but basically that'll mark all your beats, and then you can cut to that pretty easily. But I guess they're talking about automatically dropping in markers.
You know,
and all the
looking
beat
at
points.
looking at analyzing the waveform and trying to
and then just
figure
figuring
out
it
where the
out.
downbeats are. You know, tops of each measure.
And automatically putting markers there.
But it's because it's interesting. It's technically possible. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're dealing with 4/4 signature, that happens at in terms of duration, that happens at a predetermined
Right.
time,
When- like,
almost
once
every
you have the
point,
first-
right?
You know, presuming
It seems like
if-
once you marked 2 markers, it should be able to automatically do the rest of it.
well, if
Exactly.
it's a drum
Unless
machine,
there's a time signature change.
Yeah. If you're a studio musician who's maybe off, maybe
Yeah.
half of a.
or you know, quantization and all that. I think the question back to what's the guy's name who asked the question, Ozo?
Ozo?
Ozo? Anyway, the guy who asked the question.
Jeff Pickett.
Okay, Mr. Pickles, Mr. Pickling. What is it?
Jeff Pickett.
Jeff Picky. Okay. The answer for Jeff is like, or the question is, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to analyze the music file, or are you trying to edit picture to the beat? I mean, if you're just trying to figure out where the beats are, I mean, presumably it's because you want to cut picture to it, but that gets boring after a while, anyways, if you're just always on the beat.
Yeah.
So, I would answer that question with a question of what are you trying to do?
It's very predictable cutting.
It gets boring.
It's nice to have those as a starting point and hit key beats. I like to use those to hit key beats and then start shifting other stuff off. So
Yeah.
you start shaking up people's expectations.
Well, you know, if you're in for like 4/4 or 3/4 or 6/8 or whatever, and you know, finding the moments in between the moments where you know you're a musician and you know if you learn how to count when you're playing, you know, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and okay, so you know where are you going to hit these to be on the money and have it feel good, which is why like quantization is introduced into the music software. So, and what are you trying to do would be the first question for me.
Do you think you could make the beats become more apparent in the waveform by some combo of filters, to where they would kind of bubble up.
Almost like transients. Remember the
Yeah.
transients with Soundtrack Pro? You would see where the eighth notes were, maybe where you would see the quarter notes.
Or the peaking. I think
Yeah.
back Final Cut 7, you could do these peaking indicators.
A
you
false
know.
color for notes.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well, I think that's an opportunity for Phil and Greg and some metadata, like, because if they know the time signature and the length of the piece, they can determine exactly, you know, and they can where the beats are and all. With electronic music, it's much easier than it is with
Right.
analog music. But
Yeah.
What did you got there, Ozo?
I always try to match the beat to the beat of my heart, which, of course, is a timing crystal double corrected.
Nice.
Our next question is from Chris Fennick. What is your preferred method of working with clients remotely?
Preferred method of working with.
Clients remotely.
Do you mean like
remotely.
screen
is that
sharing?
from Fenwick?
Mike? Chris Fenwick? Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on whether they are also editing. I mean, I have plenty of clients that also use Final Cut, and we just make sure we both have the same media and we send projects back and
Maybe
forth.
you could try the shared clipboard from FCPX.
Yeah, I could try that, yeah. I just generally will take my cut and put it into a new transfer library. So it's not, I don't want to send them a library that contains, first of all, the media is external. I have all the media external, so the libraries are small to begin with. But then I don't want to send them a library with all my different V1, V2, V1.3, V final 3, V final 4. Right. Never late V final 7, right? But I make a separate library with external media, drag just that project into an event in that and give them that library. And then they use that as a transfer library. They drag that project into their own library and just get rid of the transfer. So there's never a confusion about which project's most common, and it works extremely well.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does. I think that it also, I like to, if I bring an event with something in it into my master library, instead of copying out what's in there, I'll merge that,
merge it in.
merge the events. It seems to work a little more cleanly and not have any kind of hangover.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the complexity of the project. I mean, if it's something just huge, ship them a hard drive with everything and just email XMLs back and forth. Also, I see a lot of people doing like Skype screen shares where, you know, the person never actually opens up Final Cut. They just want to see the cut. They see your desktop and they give you notes as you go. And,
Yeah.
you know, just how sophisticated the client wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think TeamViewer works pretty good for that.
We also use, with Ripple Training, Frame.io for reviewing, reviewing cuts. You know, his editors will post back tutorials that I've done and they've edited. And I love Frame.io because it's so fast to add notes to, and they can click on those notes and jump right to them, and I can also draw on the screen. So I'll say, could you highlight this part, to do this, whatever.
Right.
So that's been a very effective tool for kind of a collaborative process.
Yeah, I've used Frame.io a fair amount too, and I think people really either embrace the notes part, like the ability to annotate and make notes,
Yeah.
or they have no idea that it's there. So I mean, I have one client who I had last year, and she would just call me on the phone and say, yeah, you know, right here when he does this thing, and I said, well, can you just like make a note there? How do you do that? Some people just, they don't grasp any kind of technology, but it's pretty great.
I can always just stream my view to the clients. It keeps it simple. Although, they end up seeing the whole room. Okay, next question. From Sam Mestman. Where are you, Sam? I was told you would be here. Anyway, how are you guys currently making use of the emoji workflow, specifically the banana emoji, and can Mike fit the word avocado into this user group? Additionally, I miss you guys and wish I could be there today.
Oh man.
Well,
Could wish you
Banana
could be here.
emoji.
well, Sam, first of all, I think if you refer to that article, that interview that I did on Scott Simmons is on the Pro Video Coalition, Sean Lander was actually using the crap out of emojis with great success, like identifying things. And I think that one thing which I find not cool in 10.3 is, I'm just going to throw a few markers on here. Okay, so that's a marker, right? And let's do another one, except I wanted to have that one be a red one. And then let's do another one. and I want to have that be a green one.
Are you tapping the arrow key to move to your markers?
I think so.
Want to make an orange one just for the heck of it?
Yeah, and I'm going to make an orange one. Double M, and then tab,
You're tabbing.
and then
Tab.
tab.
Ooh,
and then,
oh,
okay,
chapter
so
marker.
Wait,
okay,
nice tab.
chapter marker, right?
Yep, with it.
So I've got these beautiful colors here, and I go, oh yeah, that one, I did that, and I have to look over here in the index, and I'm like, well, where did the colors go? Where did they go? And what fantastic person did this? I'll tell you who it is. It's the same person who made this stuff black and white. And there used to be a little hack for that to get it back to the colors. Like, I don't understand
Talk
that.
to your hack friend in Australia.
Hey, Chris, are you listening? But I think over here on the screen, like, I wish I could decide what the icons for things were in the index, and so I would first of all make those colored. But why not have them match what's in the timeline? It's absolutely ridiculous.
But what's this have to do with emojis?
Well, if I could put emojis there,
one,
then
yeah.
then I could say, oh, I want to make this like an exclamation point, or I want to do this or that. Or,
Especially the to-do markers, because to-do markers used to be, a little green
yeah, green
checkbox,
and
you
red.
could click on it to check it. And now it's not obvious that you click on that checkbox over there in order to say that I'm done with this task.
Yeah.
It's just totally not obvious that you click
Yeah.
on that to do that.
It's
Agree with you.
it's a really poor feature improvement, and so.
Yeah, it does seem a little weird now that they no longer match. I mean, I can only assume that they got rid of the color to kind of make it more accessible to folks that are colorblind. But yeah, it would be nice if they matched a little.
Well, then, yeah, I think it's just like, it's one of those things where you're taking something away. I get, the events in the library is no big deal. All those shapes are very different, and it's pretty obvious.
Here, yeah.
And they were all the same color anyway, except for folders. But here in the timeline, it makes no sense. And I think so. Anyways, and I think if you could take, for example, let's don't touch my chapter marker. I don't know. Can you keyword stuff down here? Okay, keywords. So, all right. So I've keyworded. Have I keyworded something?
You should keyword avocado to make sense.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's just take this keyworded avocado.
It's nice you picked a green clip to do that with.
It makes a lot
Well,
of sense.
but so where's our where's the
Keyword HUD, Command K.
Yeah, not the keyword HUD, the
Emoji HUD.
emoji.
Oh, it's option
Control Command
command.
Space.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, if you're doing text, if you're already in text entry, Control Command Space will bring up the special characters HUD.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, so avocado. Is there one in here?
It's right
Oh,
there.
there it is. There's your
Okay,
avocado.
With the
so
pit and everything.
like
I like how the
great
these
now.
slurping
Okay, so I've
faces
keyworded that avocado. Now, if I take that bit of business there and just put it somewhere in my cut, okay, great. Now I know I got a little visual colored reference in there, and isn't that nice?
It's beautiful.
And
That's
so,
really awesome.
like, why to be able to just glance at something and know what it is without having to spend time? It's like it's a giant benefit as far as I'm
Yes,
concerned.
yes.
So I want that back.
My editors are going to be using emojis like, you see like oranges and bananas.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I think
know,
like
pigs.
But if you
By the way, while you're in there, if you click at the top of this dialog box, the top right corner, there's a little icon, very top right corner. Let me draw
yeah,
for just
okay,
a minute.
right,
up
right there.
there.
Yeah. That can go up in your. I
If
have
you
one.
click that, it'll give you a
Ooh, nice.
bigger view, so you can select your categories over here a little more.
Okay.
Oh, and it gives
cool.
the names too.
So like
Yeah.
down
So-
this stuff is it's all good stuff. Like here's numbers and dots and colors and ooh.
So
spades.
question, so this kind of feeds into a little bit to what I was going to show, but if you put an emoji onto a clip, can you then search for the emoji's name? Like if you dragged avocado onto a clip
I don't know.
and then search,
So, well, if you click in the search field at the top of the browser
wait.
and just type it
Well,
the avocado.
did you already add it to the timeline? Is it
Or
already
right
in
there, yeah.
yeah, but I think
And now you
that
have to add the avocado.
Yeah, I think just stick it in there.
I think it's in already, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's in the cut, but the word avocado's in there as well. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can take that out. Just gonna edit.
That's all right. You could just search just on the emoji itself.
yeah, I know, but I mean, just thinking it could be even more awesome if it cross-referenced the name of the emoji since you get them all in that. No.
Well, it would be. I agree. Let's see. Hold on. So let's take this guy out of here. Come on, mouse. There we go. Delete. All right, so now there's no more avocado in there, and here is just redone with just the avocado itself.
Yep.
So if I come in here and I type avocado, no.
I think you need to put in the emoji in that search field. If you hit Control-Command-Space in the search
Just
field,
type in.
and then you have to enter the avocado itself, because I don't think it knows that emoji has a name.
Enter the avocado. Is that a Bruce Lee movie?
I was gonna say it's.
Well, what's weird is like you
softer.
type avocado up there and it sees the avocado.
Double-click it.
Yeah, it's already.
It didn't enter it in the
It's
search
already
field.
too many steps, fellas.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay. So, but
Avocado's
in
okay.
any case,
Emoji overload.
I think the point
Right.
is that it would be good to have like color back there and using emojis. Emojis is like a lousy replacement for having color choices for things in this.
Point well taken.
Well, you could throw in like blank generators and tag them with emojis, or you could tag them with like roll colors. I mean,
Yeah,
you could still. There's a lot of ways you could kind of sort
I
of get color
totally.
with the
I
timeline.
think it's a good idea just for like a visual reference. Absolutely. Hello.
Sorry, was talking to Siri about dinner tonight.
Ow. This guy gets around.
One more
last
question
leg.
before Noah's tip. Barry Brimer, from Atlanta, Georgia. Now that FCPX has an easy way to view titles in generators, does anyone want to be able to reorganize these with drag and drop?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
Yes.
are you talking about these sidebars?
Sounds like it, yeah. Because
so
they're
going
in a
into
fixed organizational structure.
Right. Well, I think the essence of the question is, like in 10.2, I was actually able to drag folders right off the Finder and then drag them right into the.
But he was
Well,
talking about
this-
titles and generators.
Huh?
He was talking about
Oh,
titles,
titles
and
and
generators.
You can still make your own favorites folders though in there, can't you?
No.
Yeah.
No, well, the existing stuff I think is in the structure it's in.
It's
and
in the
I think
structure.
Any stuff you create, you can create your own themes, and you.
But
can
if you
still
wanted to organize
stuff by
it-
theme.
well, I think the question, my answer to this question applies to this, the generators, the music, everything that is in this new sort of paradigm here, which is, I want to be able to keyword it. I want to be able, all this stuff
Yeah.
to be treated the same way as libraries
Library,
are treated.
yeah.
So I want to be able to keyword stuff and search for stuff and mark ins and outs on
Marks
stuff.
ins and outs on things. Yeah.
Because like I'm not really a fan of having that stuff up there. I know why they did it, but I think that if you were able to keyword stuff, then you could have a smart collection in there with this or that. If you keyword per job, you could keyword per whatever, and have collections that way. That's what I would do.
You know, one thing I do like about the fact that they're up here, because I originally felt that way, but if you find something you like and you drag it over here, it makes it very easy to add it directly to, of course, it's not doing it now. Let's go here, and let's say I want this photo. You can
You
drag
can't drag generators into a project.
You can't drag for generators in the project?
No.
But I should be able to drag a photo in, right?
Yes. Well, you're looking at an album. You
you're
have to
at-
double
you're at
click.
an
You have to
album.
double click the album.
Oh, it's an album.
Yeah,
Okay.
there now.
Good point. So if I drag this over, I can put it into an event. And that's just easier than dragging it all the way from the bottom right corner.
But yeah, but for me, like I said, I understand why the titles and generators are there because Apple considers them content.
Right.
But they don't behave the way the Photos and Titles browser do where you drag because those items in the titles and generators can only be added to the timeline because they're timeline-based content.
Yeah, that's where it should. That's why I like them down there. I get the music and stuff, but the generators, especially the generators, I don't get.
I wouldn't mind them there if I was somehow able to add them, but to the project. But
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's the answer to the question. They should be keywordable and
I
markable.
love it. I love it.
Our last tip is from Noah. Go ahead, Noah.
Oh, okay. So my tip, so exciting to get to drive finally. My tip is actually pretty simple. It's just expanding on kind of what's already given to you by default. When you get into a new library, you've got all these smart collections. And for anybody who doesn't know, these smart collections are really just saved searches. So say if I double click on the one that says all video, which is by default included in every library that you create, you can see that its parameters are either media that contains only video or media that contains audio, media that is video with audio. So you'll basically get any video clip. But what I think is interesting is if you think about a workflow where instead of just living with those defaults, you start to kind of create your own library defaults, because there's really an incredible amount of parameters that you can start to work into your smart collections. For example, used media, I think, is incredibly useful to kind of start a new library with, because if you're cutting, say, a montage, sure, an event, wedding videographer, and you know you don't want to repeat any clips, then right off the bat, you could create a used and an unused. And as you work, you'll see those start to kind of move more from the unused smart collection to the used smart collection. So that can be incredibly useful, because you'll just be able to blast through a project and quickly figure out what you still need to get into a timeline and what is already used. What else you got in here? Ratings, your favorites or your rejecteds. If you want to quickly figure out what when you initially went through your footage, you thought was good stuff or did not.
You know, and I just to sort of, I was working with someone who was completely new to this the other day, and they were hitting the delete key and accidentally rejecting sections. And it was interesting because I think that using a rejected with in the last day or in the last hour or whatever would be a really handy thing to have if for a new person who might accidentally blow things away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we seem to be
Rejected.
we're
We've been
rejected.
rejected. So, but can I add one? I love this.
Sure.
And what I can't show it now, but I can tell it is.
I wonder if OZO knows
if you,
we can't
if you
see
take
anything
any
else.
of those library level smart collections, sometimes you only want to see what's actually in a specific event. So if it's looking for unused media in the entire library across multiple events, you can take any of those and drag them into an event, and it will copy it into the event, and then it will only show you that content for that event. And I like to do that. I like to take all those default library smart collections and drag them into each event, so I have access to them on an event level as well.
So, you know, yeah, I mean, the cool thing is if you start with with an empty library, that can be saved as your template, and you could just have a bunch of libraries set up in a folder that one is set up for photo montages, one is set up for audio work, one is set up for used, unused workflow, and then, you know, make a copy of each one and use that as your basis for.
So you could just duplicate that template library in the Finder before you start, and then rename it and populate it with material. That's great.
Exactly.
Hey OZO, you're kind of technical, right?
Tech support.
OZO?
Alex?
I wonder if we're still on.
Well,
Anyone?
What did he say?
He said, well.
He said it's
well.
full of stars, I think. No.
I don't know. He probably
I
knows
can
that
be.
we have no screens, but it's not going to stop us. What's the next question?
There we go.
Yay.
Yay.
Back in business. That was like magic.
Our next question is from Patty Cooning. Slightly off subject, but does anyone know of a Blu-ray authoring software with the flexibility of DVD SP? I know Apple thinks discs are pass, but I have a lot of clients who still work with this media. And recently they asked me to offer a Blu-ray version of a ballet, but there are 20 individual dances and they like having chapter markers for each one. I could not do that with Toast. I understand Adobe has a decent product, but that you have to pay a monthly fee for it.
Why can't you do
Well,
it?
Adobe had a DVD authoring program that was called, was it Audition?
Encore.
Encore, thank you. That's been mothballed several years now. I mean, it was end of life, sorry.
EOL.
Yeah, it's an end of life. I'm not aware that Adobe has any DVD authoring anymore, so I don't know where you heard that. Of course, DVD Studio Pro, end of life, you know, it's going on like 5 years now. So just to answer your question, how can I author Blu-ray? Well, I guess it depends on how sophisticated you want your Blu-ray to be, because you can author I would say burn a Blu-ray. I wouldn't say author, because author implies that you're creating a fairly sophisticated branching structure and submenus and what have you. But Final Cut Pro will allow you to burn Blu-rays. You could with chapter markers. Yeah. See those orange chapter markers in that timeline there.
I'm just
Mike's doing it right now.
So there it is,
Blu-ray.
your Blu-ray. And you just add that, and then we're going to share it. And those Final Cut Pro will be able to read those chapter marks. Oh,
Use
and then
markers.
chapters.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ba-da-bam.
Now, does it let you, because if you look at the chapter markers, you've got like where the little kind of
Little
the
hodad
little
there.
flag thing is
Yeah.
where
Well,
the time code, and then the little pin you drag
We'll,
is
we'll-
supposed to be the.
supposedly.
We'll show you the thumbnail.
But
They
does
don't
that
work.
does that work?
it doesn't work.
Okay.
No, I verified the past several versions. It has not worked.
Okay, so if
Fun
we
to
go here and we say, all right, this is our 20 wedding, for our customer, whatever. Let's see, layers. I don't know much about this because I never do.
Okay,
So
yeah.
there's your
There's
templates.
your
So
templates
that
right
you're
there.
limited to. There's only a few. The limitation is there's only a few templates. There's not some big structure with multiple buttons you can click on and go multiple places. But most people need chapter markers.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple other things I want to show in there. So
Okay.
it's all.
You drive.
If you have the chapter markers, you want to check this box, use chapter markers as subtitles. It'll create one branch down, another menu with all of your selectable chapter markers.
Oh, so can you actually, if you name the chapters, will those show up as
Correct.
subtitles?
That's right. They'll show up as subtitles.
Nice.
Okay. You are pointing up here. You can and this is something else that you can output to hard drive. Now, if you have a Blu-ray burner that's connected via Thunderbolt or USB, whatever, you have to have a burner in order to get the Blu-ray
have a
content
Buffalo, yeah.
plus Blu-ray media, and you can burn directly from here and hand to your client. But notice here, you can also output a hard disk version. Now, presumably, you can then take what you did and then take it to some sort of a duplication house and then have mass quantities done. Because if you have to, run off 40 of them, what are you going to sit there and like feed, your burner like
One after
40,
another.
one after the other? So presumably, you could take this file it creates to a replication house, and they should be able to, run it through like stacks of them, what have you. But short answer is you can burn Blu-ray, and you can have fairly simple menus with chapter markers.
But they work really well. I've burned a ton of Blu-rays from Final Cut, and they're totally solid, playing everywhere they need to play.
Great.
Yeah, and if you're going to play your Blu-ray, make sure your client has a Sony PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, another way to go is you can offer an option of just giving them a flash key with the exact same content on it. You could even put the Blu-ray onto the flash key, and I mean, is there still a Blu-ray player software of some sort on?
Yeah, well, there's
macOS?
Mac Blu-ray player, which you can like put a but then you got to have a Blu-ray reader. I think I know people who still want DVDs, and I think there's certain clients who want what they want, and so if you want the client, you got to provide that. So I think that I have made many Blu-rays from this. It's totally solid, and you can do simple things like add chapters, add chapter titles. Customize the look of it, not extensively, but it's free.
Well, you
and it
can
works
add your own
well.
background. Click this add. You can navigate
Yeah.
to a Photoshop, a custom background. It's not going to loop or animate.
Right.
So a lot of people, can you have your own animated? No. That
Put your company logo or
your
whatever.
company logo, any still image can be used as your menu.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
Ozo.
Next question,
I
Ozo.
recently had a client ask for a VHS. I said this is not 1990. Okay, next question. From Ed Huber, in Lake Placid, New York. I like to have my browser arranged in a few specific ways. Whenever I quit and restart or open new project, it resets. Specifically the group by file type and columns that I like to have open and in a specific spot disappear. I always open my workspace whenever I reopen FCP. Anyone experience this? Is there a fix or workaround?
I would think all those settings should be saved if you save a custom workspace.
Yeah, I find they reset, like if I'm going back and forth between a laptop and hooking it up to a monitor, that will kind of blow it up. But I don't know if have you tried.
Yeah, well, I think that like what I've seen happen is like the windows will stay the same, but the sorting. Like,
Yes,
Yeah,
you're right.
group by-
I agree.
different.
It'll actually go to the film strip view at the 2 seconds film strip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I gotta go back and reset that again.
But yeah.
I think that's what he's
I
referring
think
to.
that I mean I have this little pet peeve that every event should be as you left it the last time you left it. Like, you know, if I'm here in this cuts and I want it to be like this, okay, that's perfect for me. And then I want this one to be like this. And so if I go back to the cuts, it's like that. You don't always want everything to be the same. I think that is a deficiency in the software.
So it could save more states. I do want to show you one quick way to deal with opening up and seeing content that's not the way you organize the way you want it to. You need to find something that's got a fair amount of material in here. There. So if when you open it, you're like this, and you're opening it and you're going, oh man, I like in film strip view, I like it to look like that.
Yep.
Okay, you never need to do that again. So what you do is, first of all, if it's in the wrong view, like if it's in list view, Command Option 2 will toggle between them. So it just goes really fast. And then when you're in this view, Shift Option Command, hold those 3 keys down and hit the comma key, and it will just make them all 1 frame long. So you don't have to worry about if they're long like this, just boom. It'd be nice if it would default to that for sure, because I was doing that all the time, because that's a click and a drag.
Yep.
And a drag you can miss.
Yep.
And I just prefer, like, I hit the keystroke and I know it's going to go back, because I work most of the time in this view.
Me too.
Or I'll go to list view, like for a longer interview, or because I want to see that long waveform and grab a piece where I can see the waveform spike. But it doesn't solve the problem, but it's kind of a
Right. Yeah.
little thing to make it faster.
That's one of those things.
Agreed. I love those avocados in there.
Yeah, I do love those avocados.
Who doesn't love an avocado, Sam?
Remember this ad campaign for avocados, and I really liked it. I like ad campaigns that said, really, good trees produce oxygen. Really good trees produce avocados.
Oh, wow.
Next question, from Andreas Kiel. Other thing roles. While more and more people realize what roles are and why they are essential, especially for an LE like X, I really miss role handling with video. I second Steve's question. Other thing roles. While more and more people realize what roles are and why they are essential, especially for an LE like X, I really miss role handling with video. Audio is fine meanwhile. This is kind of essential a bit for graphics, but a basic thing for lower thirds and most important for subtitles. In many cases the user creates the chaos and is time consuming to fix. Any suggestions or comments?
I can take this one. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and add a title. Actually, let's see, here, Control T. So I have a title, right? And I'm going to go ahead and add another title. And just for the fun of it, I'll add another title, right? Now, if you look at the roles for these titles, they're all title roles. If I turn these off, notice they all go off together, okay? I'm going to go into Edit Roles, and I'm going to add, basically titles fall under video roles. So titles and video are all under this category here. So I could add another title role, but you can actually add sub-roles to titles. So I can go ahead and here I can say this. I could say maybe I have English. English. And maybe I have another set of titles for my Spanish market.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Okay. And then maybe I have one other for, I don't know, Apaches in the Southwest. All right. We have a lot of Native Americans. So
about the Navajo.
Yeah, Navajo. I could have left. Well, this is my neck of the woods are Apaches.
Yeah, they
so,
prefer
Miwok and Loney.
yeah, they prefer Premiere Pro over the Navajo Nation.
Okay, so here I've got these different sub roles, and I'm gonna go ahead and close this. And these can all be assigned. So this could be your video roles. I could assign video roles. Maybe that's my English, and then this is my Spanish, and then of course it's my Native American Apache. Right. So, point is, I've just assigned them, and of course now, if I expand this, you can now I can see all my roles right here. They can be turned off. So when I export or when I want to work, I can turn these on and off as needed, just like just like it can with audio. What you don't see, and I think this is the essence of his question, is like I don't have the same level of sophistication where I'm spilling open these sub-rolls and then seeing all of this content.
Or moving them around.
Moving them around up and down. You can't really do that. They're really they're stuck. Not I want to say stuck, but there's one parent roll and then you have your sub-rolls. And one other thing I wanted to point out in 10.2, I think one of the things that was nice, remember this little button, little arrow button that if you clicked, you could take a title and minimize it, make it really small.
Make it a chiclet.
You can make it a little small. That feature was removed. So I actually do miss that feature. Because when you add a graphic, you know, like let's say a photo or a graphic or some sort of something from Illustrator or Photoshop, the track is like this big.
Yeah, you mean also when you put a title inside of a secondary storyline?
Right.
It blows up.
Yeah.
Yes. So I actually missed the feature in 10.2.
There we go.
Where you click that, yeah, see what I'm saying? You were, in 10.2, you were able to click this little arrow and make it.
That one's English.
You could collapse it.
Yeah, collapse it. So
Right.
anyway, that's what I'm saying.
It'd be nice
Right.
to shrink it down. But you can assign roles and export them
Yeah.
and then choose on export.
Yeah, you could certainly when you export this, you can choose whether you want just the English or the Spanish export. So that hasn't
Export window. Yeah, not by disabling them here.
No, in the export window.
Yeah, I will say that is a feature request that I would love to see is that whatever the role settings in the timeline are currently, you have the option to select that as which get exported because you can kind of mess yourself up if you don't realize certain roles are disabled as you're previewing. If you just do a master file export, all the roles will be on, and suddenly you'll be hearing stuff
Right.
you didn't expect. So.
Yeah, I think just in trying to think through the logic of why video is not as customizable and as mobile as audio is because of the top-down sort of nature of this. So
Compositing order.
if you had video, visual effects, and titles, and you said, "Oh, I just want to move the visual effects," then they might like destroy some of your titles, or
Right.
And so I think
Stacking order matters.
Yeah, the stacking order in video matters more than it does in audio.
Really, really good point. Really good
That's
point.
really
Yeah.
it is.
Next question is from Joel Hall. Mark showed some great marker workflows for editing in the current FCPX in 5 minutes. It was awesome. How can I export a list of markers from a project in a form that can be pasted into a spreadsheet?
That's a simple producer's best friend.
Oh, but I'm guessing the question is how can you do it for free also? Definitely producer's best friend rocks, but there's some ways to do it without that.
I haven't done it, but I would guess if you export to XML, the marker information is in there, but then you have to strip it out. But producer's best friend.
Yeah, we as a company, we use producer's best friend all the time. We have hundreds and hundreds of chapter markers for our tutorials, and we have to export them out for when we upload our movies to.
Didn't Rainier make something about markers?
I think Andreas Keel, whose question was a few questions back, also has some kind of tool that will give you something that you could bring into a spreadsheet.
One thing that I would like to see figure out how to easily edit chapter markers after the fact. They've already spit out, and I don't want to re-export a movie with 100 different chapters. I want to be able to go into that movie and be able to change the text. And QuickTime Pro, you can get into the busty innards of QuickTime and then change a chapter marker. And
did you just say busty innards?
Yes.
Okay. Next question. What is busty innards?
It's my Star Wars reference.
Okay.
So, anyway. Yeah. So
avocado.
For me, it's producer's best friend from Intelligent Assistance.
Yeah, that is a spectacular piece of software,
It's
especially
fantastic.
for the fact that you can do different layouts of different things.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil and Greg, for adding that. But I think you can do so much. You can do visual effects count sheets. You can do spotting sessions. You can do all kinds of stuff with that, depending on how creative you get with it to make everyone else.
If you have baked those chapter markers into a QuickTime movie, Hootenanny can just save your butt. This has saved me so much time.
It's called Metadata Hootenanny.
Yeah, Metadata Hootenanny allows you to open a QuickTime file and change the chapter marker names. Because I've had deliverables for clients I have 4-hour timelines that take hours to render out and would have to redo them all.
Yeah.
And you just go in there and change the chapter marks. Or I had somebody's name spelled incorrectly. Metadata Hootenanny.
Hootenanny.
Are they keeping
It's a
that up to date?
lifesaver.
Is it still working?
I haven't seen an update I'm waiting.
I used it. I
Yeah.
used it recently. Yeah.
Still works great.
Yeah.
I used it, a couple weeks ago, and it worked fine.
Our
about
next
anybody else
question,
knows that?
Adam Silver. I shot something for SLOMO, so I used 60 FPS as my frame rate. I dropped it into a 23.976 timeline, and the SLOMO is beautiful. The beginning of the clip, I like it to play in real time, so I sped up that part 250%, which works, except that I lose the motion blur that would normally occur if I had shot at 23.976. Any way to make this work, so the beginning of the clip runs real time and then goes to slow-mo with natural motion blur during the sped up section?
Really
in
good
Final Cut?
question. That's a really
You could always. It depends on the motion. I mean, you could always mess around with the blur filters, but I mean, you didn't get motion blur because you shot 60 frames per second, so there's not that smearing between frames because you got so many more frames. So yeah, I don't know.
It's
Maybe
tough 'cause
something
you
in
didn't
motion.
capture it in camera.
Yeah.
I mean, you could fake, so you could look at you could try applying there's motion blur interpolation, but I've never found that to be something I would say no. I think it's going to be very hard to recreate in-camera motion blur after the fact like that.
Yeah, I could see maybe something where you do like multiple instances of the clip and kind of place them over each other and kind of offset it a frame or two, and then maybe do some opacity messing with it. But yeah, I don't know.
That
Your
seems, that
mileage
seems
may
messy.
vary. Yeah, very, very.
The only other thing I'd add is if they're doing straight cut from the full speed to the slow motion, I'd advocate doing a Shift B, doing a blade speed. Shift
Should be, yeah, should be.
Do a blade speed because it includes the ability to ramp from your full speed to your slow mo and a smoother transition between the two. Yeah, I am. I'm looking like it's a camera. I'm looking at OZO. but-
I wonder if you just use an overall blur of like a tiny fraction on that, just to take the sharpness away, because I think the natural result of the high frame rate is
Crisp.
quicker shutter and crisper images. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you just added the teeniest bit of blur to it and then ramp that out as the other thing ramped in, I mean, it's something you'd have to fool with.
Yeah, or maybe when you're shooting, I don't know, mess with the shutter speed a little bit, just so that
Shutter
you don't
angle,
get
yeah.
that
It's a really good
intense-
question.
Yeah,
Really good
the
question.
shutter angle. Yeah.
Well, I think there's shutter angle controls on film cameras or high-end cameras are going to give you some effects that you probably can't get with DSLRs or stuff without big lenses and big shutters. So yes, moving on.
Our last question is from Joseph Boruso. Can you talk about how to finish a film for broadcast? Taking it to an online house and outputting to tape. HBO still requires HDCA MSR delivery, as well as how to get the audio to Pro Tools for sound edit and mix.
They still require HD Cam SR.
Wow.
I did not know
That's
that.
incredible. Well, if you're going to take it to a tape house to do that.
Yeah, I was
Well,
going to say lightning dubs.
SR is solid. I mean, if you're in Final Cut and if you're working at full resolution, which you ought to be, or able to get back to it, you can go into Resolve for color. You can use, this works for X consolidation tool if need be. Same company, Marquee Broadcast, makes Extra Pro that makes lovely AAF files, which will get you into Pro Tools. You're going to want to build guide tracks, which is just a render of your audio, roll by roll, on the output, and in wherever you're doing your color, I would suggest making the SR there, because every respectable color house, at least in Los Angeles and New York and Chicago, big major cities, is going to have the ability to probably make SRs, and I would even go so far as to say digibetas for certain markets who might want a standard definition version of something. So I think a professional finishing house is the place to go to finish it, but you can deliver them probably a single render of your show at your best resolution and an EDL, and they can let Resolve do edit detection and or chop it up with the EDL. And you have to do your dissolves as a B-roll thing if you have dissolves.
By the way, real smart motion blur from Revision FX might be good for motion blur after the fact.
Great idea.
What did Ozo say?
Real smart motion blur from Real Effects.
Real effects.
That's a
All
good
right.
idea.
Steve, where can people find you online?
People can find me online at rippletraining.com. That's our site where we have training, and they can find us on Facebook and Twitter. We have a weekly YouTube content up on YouTube. You can see we post
Training
Ripple
YouTube.
Training. We post stuff every week. Yeah. I guess you can email
Mark,
me.
where can people find you?
Definitely Ripple Training and YouTube Ripple Training channel for content, and Twitter at MarkSpen, MarkSpen.
Mike, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter, or I have a website for the book that I wrote on Final Cut Workflow, and FCPX Features at Twitter, and FCPXFeatures.co on the World Wide Web.
Noah, where can people find you?
FCP Works, like Final Cut Pro Works.com. Also Twitter handle, Facebook. Yeah.
Thanks,
Ozo,
everyone.
where can people find
We'll
you?
see you again when we feel like it. Goodbye.
We should all get close to Ozo just so people can really feel the VR space. Close-up face.
Thank you, Ozo.
Thank
amazing
you, Ozo.
host.
It's been really amazing. Yeah, he's so calm.
It's actually been kind of fun having him there.
It's way better than having Alex here. Isn't
It's different. It's different.
So,
Post show and
Thanks. Stay tuned for the after show.
Now, will he come out and join us for the after show?
I hope so.
You have Ozo, Ozo, do you have a drink in the after show?
Pliny the Elder.